Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, April 11th, 2021, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Republican Party's idea of what can win them back the House majority in 2022 and why we are being revealed their playbook very early on and what this means for the 2022 midterm elections. Now, with the combination of an article from Politico today revealing that the Republican Party seems to be aiming at drafting veterans, military veterans, to run in the United States House of Representatives in 2022, combined with Donald Trump promising today that the GOP will win back control of the United States House, we are looking at what seems to be the playbook for the GOP for the next year and a half as to what they are going to do in order to win back House control and why they're tapping into Donald Trump specifically and how his influence will ultimately impact the House election results and why drafting veterans seems to be the next thing that the GOP is going to do in order to win back seats from the Democratic Party. So looking at our rundown here, we have two things that coincide together that are ultimately going to either bring the GOP to control in the United States House or fall flat on its face. And we don't know which one is going to happen yet, but we do know that the GOP is looking to do everything they can in order to win back House control, and that starts with Trump and also includes military veteran candidates. So the first thing we're going to go through are the promises that Donald Trump made for the Republican Party. He spoke at a closed-door convention today with members of the Republican National Committee, telling them that he is going to be there for them in 2022 and 2024, saying definitively that a Republican candidate, he did not say himself, but he said a Republican candidate will win in 2024 against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, of course, or both. On top of that, we are also seeing that Donald Trump has promised that the GOP will win control of both the House and the Senate. And I think that it's very interesting that the Republican Party is still very much in love with President Trump. Those top Republican names are at these closed-door meetings, the ones at Four Seasons down in Florida, and they're speaking to President Trump, and they're listening to him speak. They're listening to various speakers on the floor there, and I think that it's quite interesting that they're so willing to take the words of a president who just lost his re-election bid a few months ago. But essentially the main takeaways here from Business Insiders, they have three different points here. That former President Trump on Saturday addressed the RNC Donor Summit in Florida. He expressed confidence in the GOP's ability to regain control of Congress in 2022. Yes, that means the House and the Senate. And that a Republican candidate would win the House in 2024. Now, I think it's very interesting. He says he says yesterday, quote, "I stand before you on this evening filled with the confidence in 2022. We are going to take back the House, we are going to reclaim the Senate, and then in 2024, a Republican candidate is going to win the White House." You see, he cites Joe Biden's unpopular agenda, saying, "With an agenda this unpopular, it's no wonder that Joe Biden is the first president in modern times not to address a joint session of Congress within his first few weeks." Going back, that Joe Biden did not speak to a joint session of Congress. It wouldn't have been a State of the Union, but it would have been a joint session of Congress where he could have spoken. And you see, I really do think that this messaging from Donald Trump is something that the Republican Party is going to wholeheartedly adapt. That Joe Biden's policies are unpopular, that Joe Biden is not a popular president, that what's happening at the border is something that is a crisis, that COVID-19 would have gone away the same way as Donald Trump. In fact, we also found out today that Donald Trump is asking Republican surrogates and those top Republicans to refer to the vaccine as the Trumpsine or the Trump vaccine. You know, even though there is no reason to do so, we aren't calling it the Biden vaccine. I really don't understand why this needs to be done, other than the fact that Donald Trump is just trying to get messaging out there. But you see, this prediction from Donald Trump is, combined with the money that is now being spent, Donald Trump is trying to make sure he has the right people in Congress in 2022. And he's leveraging his ability in these Senate races and in these House races, because in 2020, despite the Democrats winning the presidency, they lost a total of 12 seats, or 15 seats. Not just the Democrats, but Republicans picked up 15 seats in the United States House of Representatives in 2020. They flipped a net 12, meaning that the Democratic Party lost a number of races. And if you look down the toss-up column, get this, the Democratic Party won not one district. Seriously speaking, they did not win a single toss-up district. Amongst the Republicans expected to win narrowly or expected to win easily, the Democrats did not win a single one here either. So the GOP ran up the numbers. And many people, including myself, attribute this to Donald Trump being on the ballot. Because he was able to drive up turnout in certain states, he was able to bring down ballot voters. Also, because it was a heightened turnout election, voters that may have been anti-Trump but pro-Republican might have turned out to vote. Or those who were, voting for Biden might have voted for the Republican Party, whereas they otherwise might not have even voted. So while it may have benefited Joe Biden on the presidential level, they may hold some conservative views that would have pushed them to the Republican Party down ballot. There are a number of factors that impacted the 2020 House elections, but the main takeaway is that the Democratic Party did not perform nearly as well as they should have, or at all. And you see, looking at 2018, I think this is what Donald Trump is going to try to reflect on as well, and argue that he was able to make the Senate elections in 2018 more beneficial for the GOP than they might have been. Had Donald Trump not exerted his heavy influence on the Senate races in 2018, we probably might have had the Democrats win back control of the United States Senate. For instance, if Donald Trump really just stuck to himself and didn't campaign the way he did, maybe Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, and Florida would have gone a different way. But obviously that's a stretch. You would never expect an incumbent president to not campaign on behalf of their party, but I think this is what Donald Trump is arguing. And I think that this platform, that Joe Biden is unpopular, that Joe Biden's policies are causing a crisis at the border, that Joe Biden's policies are closing down states, they're shutting down schools. It's something that is not conservative, not Christian, not moral. I think that's what the Republican Party's messaging is going to be. And it's going to come from the right people. And that brings me into the second part of the video where we discuss the Republican Party's now willingness to draft veterans in order to reclaim the House majority. Now, when they say veterans, they are talking about former military officers. They're talking about those who served in the Marine Corps. They're talking about those who served in the Air Force, who served in the Navy, whatever it might be. The GOP has very much always been the party that the military has backed vehemently. And I think it's very interesting to see that they are now only recently tapping into this playbook. And I think it is a smart one. I think it certainly is smart because first things first, veterans typically lean to the right. So you're going to have a bigger pool than Democratic veterans. There's a reason why a lot of those top Democrats in 2018, I don't know if you guys remember this, but a lot of top Democrats, including, for example, I think a perfect example is Amy McGrath. A lot of them that were huge fundraising machines and very inspirational in terms of their ads. I'm not going to lie about Amy McGrath's ads. Her campaign ad in 2017, 2018 time period were very strong. That's why she almost won Kentucky's 6th district. But I think that what we saw was that there was a long list of Democrats that were veterans that ended up running for House that ended up winning. I think that it's a very interesting thing that we see so many veterans on the Democratic side. And now the Republican Party, while very much has been the party that the military has backed the most, is now starting to tap into it. And this is interesting. Representative Don Bacon from the state of Nebraska, he served in the United States Air Force. And he says, quote, when he says we've, he means the Republican Party, "We've got a built-in advantage. I think if you look at polling, about 2/3 of our veterans tend to be Republicans." The Democrats were smart too in trying to emphasize that area, referring to the fact that the Democratic Party recruited candidates that were a part of the military or currently in the military. And fact is, it is the most trusted institution in America. And that's the thing. And that makes sense. You see, when you go into these competitive House districts from 2020 and you look at them and say, how can we make it red? How can we flip these districts in favor of the Republican Party? Well, all you're going to need is a semi-unpopular incumbent Democratic representative, or someone who isn't exactly super well known, a newly elected representative, someone who could be trounced out by countless ads about how your time in the military is, coinciding with your service to America. Don Bacon isn't wrong. The military is one of the most trusted institutions in the United States. Respect for veterans goes well beyond, I would say, than some other countries in terms of what we see here in America. So looking at some of these competitive districts, the Republicans might be able to see, what pundits would call the military card. That someone who has served this country put this country above all else. And that's why we have never seen a president before Donald Trump that either never held political office, which means that these people got in without being a military member, or served in the United States military. That's the thing. You see, in almost every presidential election, you have someone who served in the United States military. Almost every single president since before Donald Trump had former political office or served in the military. Donald Trump broke that. Donald Trump defied expectations. But what we see here is that the Republican Party is going to tap into that long history of representatives and senators and presidents that have served in the military And going into these battleground districts and arguing, if I fought for you abroad, or if I'm here defending the homeland, or if I'm in the National Guard, or if I served in the Navy and I was in, this part of California, which is why I'm running here, whatever it might be, I think that holds certainly a powerful message. I think there is a very powerful message in serving in the United States military. It's 100% one of the most respected things in this nation. And while there is that whole argument as to whether or not the Democratic Party really wants to field military candidates, at the end of the day, they have, and they will continue to do so. I think outside of the younger wing of the Democratic Party, it remains a widely popular solution to winning in competitive districts. And that's why we will probably see veterans on both sides running against each other. But what's said here by Representative Don Bacon is not wrong. The Republicans have the advantage amongst veteran voters. They almost always win them. On top of that, in terms of fielding strong candidates for House districts or just fielding veterans in general, you are likely to find, statistically speaking, more Republican veterans than Democratic veterans. And there could be a number of reasons why, but that's partially what I think the Republican Party is going to do. They're going to find veterans in these Senate and House races and have them spew the message of President Trump, arguing that Joe Biden is a bad president, arguing that the policies are causing crisis across the country, causing gas prices to increase. Whatever it might be, I can certainly see how it can be spun in such a way. And since military members are one of the most respected members of our country, I think it's a message that will work. And I think it's a strategy that can be very effective. Because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have both utilized it in the past, and I can't imagine that it wouldn't work in 2022. Because the American electorate is very easy to predict. There are strategies that you stick with for decades, and they continue to work election after election after election until they don't. Do I think 2022 will be that year where it doesn't work? Absolutely not. American voters are looking for someone who can return to a sense of normalcy, can bring back that sense of patriotism within our country. I think we are at a very low point in terms of how many people are actually proud of our nation. There are plenty of Democrats who say, not really. Many Republicans with Joe Biden in office say the same thing. Was the same case under Donald Trump. Barack Obama's approval rating, George W. Bush's approval rating, Bill Clinton's approval rating, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, all of which might argue the opposite. But once we started to see Trump enter into office, as well as Biden in office, the American opinion of its own country has not been as high as it used to be. And I think that with Donald Trump, if you watch today's video when I talked about Ron Johnson, you will know what I'm trying to say. With Donald Trump exerting influence on the race here in 2022, on the House elections, on the Senate elections, he's coming and saying, use my strategy, I will fundraise for you, and I will win back control of the House for you. And he probably isn't wrong. The Republican Party is starting to reveal what they want to do. They are going to be the party of Trump. We've known that for the past 3 months now. There was that question after the Capitol insurrection, will Republicans finally drop President Trump? It was in discussion for maybe a day, and the day after that, it was a no. They were not going to drop President Trump, and now he's speaking to the RNC. Now he's speaking to many top donors. Now he's arguing certain points. Now he's making promises on behalf of the GOP. On top of Republicans now announcing that, not necessarily announcing, but it's been picked up by the media, that they are going to be drafting veterans. So if you're in a competitive district and you're watching this video, if you see a Republican ad from someone who says, I served in the Air Force, I served in the Army, I served in the Navy, there's probably a reason for that. Because the GOP is doing outreach right now. They're going to different veterans, they're going to different military bases, and they're looking for those who could be the next representatives, the next senators, and those who could oust Democratic incumbents across the nation. And Donald Trump, like I had said, is exerting as much influence as he can. He's looking for the senators, for the representatives, for the attorney generals, for the governors, for those to run in these races in order to have him have a direct line to Congress, have a direct line to the American public. Because he's been censored off social media. And when I say censored, I'm not saying that as if, it wasn't without consequence. What he had done was violate the terms of service. They are private companies. They do have the freedom. They do have the liberty to do that. But it also prohibits him from speaking to the general public. Now, Democrats would argue that's a beneficial thing. Republicans would argue the contrary. But the thing is, since it's not a debate anymore and it's already been done, Donald Trump is doing everything he can to influence this nation. Whether that's through the Senate with John Boozman, Mo Brooks, Mike Crapo, or whether it's through governors such as Sarah Huckabee Sanders, or through statewide officials like Jody Hice or Tim Griffin. What Donald Trump is trying to do is essentially endorse certain candidates, endorse people to relay his message on the national, statewide, and local level so his influence extends very large his influence extends well beyond what he has currently, being someone who has been, ousted by multiple social media firms and by many people. And I think that Donald Trump is really trying to salvage his image, if that makes sense. And the GOP seems to be eating it up. I think the GOP is grabbing onto this and saying, this is our strategy. We'll work with the Trump message and we'll have it through veterans. And that's what we will probably see. I will not be shocked if many of those House pickups on behalf of the GOP comes from veterans who are pro-Trump. That is what I expected the GOP as it stands currently, and that's what they've revealed to us in the past weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2022 midterm election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.